was born in the 80s. I ain't gonna say my year. Well, I don't mind. I'll say my year. 1985, Indianapolis, Indiana. Um, Born to Melanie D. Berry and Tony Lee Henley, who was my parents. Yeah, was raised pretty much just by my mom, single mom. Grew up in Hallville. Anybody from the Indianapolis area know Hallville is one of the best and worst places to grow up at. Reason why I say the best because I think what shaped me into uh, being who I am was my upbringing and being around certain things and uh, just having that early experience in life of seeing different things. So I will say Hallville was one of the places that taught me a lot about, just seeing what I don't want to be when I grow up. But I'm grateful for just uh, being able to make it out of such an area. Uh, but yeah, my first part of my life grew up in Hallville uh, to a single mother, which is my mom, Melanie, due to my dad being incarcerated when I was 5 months, all the way up until I was 38 years old. Um, so a lot of people don't know that, but yeah, my dad literally just got out 2 years ago. One of the good things about living in Hallville, we lived with, everybody, like my grandmother, my aunt, my mom, we all lived together. And then like across the way, I had some cousins, that lived there. Then across this way, I had another aunt and her kids that lived there. So it was like our whole family lived in Hallville in this one uh, apartment complex. And it was just easy for me to, go over hang with my cousins and go play, with my other cousins on this side. So it was definitely a good upbringing because I had all my family right there, and we all was very close knit. You know what I mean? So it was always a good time, having the family around. So my grandmother was like the glue that kind of held us all together. You know what I mean? Even though we was in the hood, I didn't think or feel like we was in the hood because like all we did was go to church, and home and we had all our family kind of right there. So like I didn't think it was the hood or or anything like that. I always looked at it as just normal living, uh, until I got older, of course. And I'm like, well, dang, I made it out of it. That was the real hood, But I didn't feel it, because there was so much love in that area. All my family is right there, so it was just so much love. So the only time I did realize it was the hood is when my grandparents came and got me. When my grandfather came and got me, and my grandfather, he was a hard worker and he had a little money, so he lived in the suburbs. So when they came and got me on the weekends, and took me to a whole nother area, you know what I mean? So that's when I really started realizing, okay, yeah, I got to, when I get older, this is what I got to do to get out of here. But uh, yeah, as long as I was right there, I didn't realize I was in the hood. You know what I mean? Like because life was good. I go out in my front, go play in the playground with my family, my cousins, friends I had, and we had a little playground, a little baseball. Now, my mom used to come out there and play base softball with us. She used to love softball, and we just had a good time, man. You just didn't think that you was in the hood living there because, like I said, all my family was just right there. Until like my grandfather started coming to get me, and I seen the difference. I seen where they lived and how we lived, and I was just like, yeah, when I get older, I gotta live like that. Growing up wasn't so bad. I mean, like I said, it was so much love from my family, and like I said, all we did was go to church, quartet programs. My grandmother loved quartet, and so did my mom. They actually had a group together called the Heaven Bound Singers. So that's all I knew growing up was literally church, quartet, and family. That's all I knew. So that's all we did. I literally woke up and went to school on during the week. And the weekends, we was quartet hopping, going to different quartet programs in the city. Uh, or I was going to see, or sit with my mom while they go sing. And yeah, it was a good time. It was a simple time. That's what got me into quartet. Uh, Being a quartet lover was my parents, my mom, and even before my dad was locked up, my dad played guitar for various quartet groups in the city. Uh, so yeah, I mean, my whole family, my mom and dad met in quartet. So uh, yeah, I'm deeply rooted in quartet. Ooh, Lola B. Jackson. Uh, that's my grandmother. That's the love of my life. That's my baby. Um, that was my hero. Uh, that's who got me into uh, loving quartet music. Um, I remember having to go live with her when I was around like 9 years old, I think, and that's all I did was literally listen to quartet music. My grandmother had everybody, all the music, all the cassettes, all the VHSs. She used to collect them. So I remember listening to the Mighty Clouds of Joy. I remember listening to the Ken Spirituals. I remember listening to the Mighty Supreme Voices. A lot of people don't remember them, but they the Texas Boys now. So I remember listening to a lot of those groups growing up, man, and the Golden Crowns and a lot of groups, man. So that kind of shaped who I am musically uh, today because that's what I grew up on. Anybody know my grandma? She didn't play about her collection of quartet music. She didn't play about it. She had, like I said, she had everybody you can think of. She had either on cassette or VHS. But her all-time favorite was Lee Williams. Lee Williams could not do no wrong, and I remember playing. I was playing in a quartet group called the Spiritual Airs. It was one of my first groups I played in. Um, Played drums. I didn't play guitar yet. And we had a concert in Louisville, Kentucky, and the group that I played for was a local group, so we didn't we didn't travel very far. But I just remember how excited my grandmother was because we was on the program with Lee Williams, and that was like her highlight of seeing her baby on the same program as Lee Williams. Yeah, no matter whether she was sick or not, my grandmother, man. So my grandmother had the worst case of arthritis anyone can have. So that resulted in a lot of surgeries and all that, but it never stopped her from, you know, wanting to go to quartet programs, wanting to go to church. It didn't stop her. She was like, get my wheelchair, we gonna roll in here, you know what I mean? So she didn't care. Her determination was next to none. Like up until she died, like she was always, you know, that was her thing. Quartet was her thing. They loved it. So about 12, 13, we moved to Brightwood. Again, if you're from Indianapolis, you know that Brightwood and Hallville are two of the the worst neighborhoods in Indianapolis. And so I end up my mom ended up moving us uh, to Brightwood. Uh, so this is kind of where all the musical stuff started happening for me because I really honestly didn't care about that stuff. I really just wanted to play basketball, really honestly. Uh, but in Brightwood, that's where all the musical stuff, and then I got a chance to meet the half of my family, which is the Walkers, which is my dad's side of the family. And this side of the family was the musical side, and everybody played an instrument, So we had the family church, Southern Baptist, which that's where I learned pretty much everything starting out. So yeah, man, it was a great time, man, because I got to be around uh, people my age, which was my cousins. I hadn't been around because with the ripple of not having my dad and around or whatever, so I didn't really know that side of the family. Uh, but once I did, like that, just opened up everything for me as far as music. Uh, so I got a chance to see like my cousins Ant Walker and Anthony Walker play drums, and my cousin Pee Wee, which is Will, which became my right hand man later on. But got to watch them, be musicians, and it just opened up a whole door for me to just want to be a musician. And it was almost confirmation for me, I think, because I wanted to be a musician, but the people that I was hanging around, it was all we did was breaking houses and fight. So it was a breath of fresh air to be around my cousins who was in church, uh, who was musicians in church. So it just helped catapult me into musicianship. uh, my cousin Jimmy Walker, was one of the first people to actually take me under his wing. He was a bass player for a group called the Spiritual Airs and a couple other groups earlier. But he was the one that actually invested in me, took me under his wing, and helped me get my first set of drums and all that, man. So shout out to Jimmy Walker for always believing in me. But yeah, my early part, I was a drummer. I wasn't even thinking about playing guitar. Uh, I just wanted to be a drummer, and uh, being around my family kind of, like I said, catapulted me into that. Got me started in playing in these quartet groups around the city and stuff like that. But before that, I was actually, and this is embarrassing, I started out playing bongos. I started out actually playing bongos for my family group because they already had the drummer there. They already had everybody there. So in order for me to fit in, I had to either sing or play bongos. And I ended up doing both. I was actually singing in the background, and then I was playing bongos. Embarrassing, interesting, but yes, I was a bongo player before I was anything. So and I took pride in that. Like I went and bought my own bongos. My mom helped me get my congos and stuff together, and I had my shiny shirts and all that stuff, man. And but yeah, that's where I started. I started literally playing bongos. Wasn't even thinking about a guitar or none of that stuff. I started out at my family's church playing bongos. So guitar came a lot later. I was a late bloomer on everything. I didn't start playing drums to like 11, 12, something like that. Most kids start really earlier than that. Church kids anyway. And I didn't start playing guitar until like really start playing until I was 18. I remember being at a music store it was called Mars Music at the time. And remember walking in and seeing this red J Reynolds guitar. And I was actually going in there to get some sticks, but I really wanted that guitar. I don't know why, because I really didn't have no interest in it. Reason why I didn't have interest in it, I ain't gonna lie, I kind of hated my dad at the time for leaving me, and that was the instrument that he played. So yeah, I didn't want to play guitar. But for some reason, that guitar stood out to me. It was $50. It was this cheap, used J Reynolds guitar. It was cherry red. I'll never forget. End up going to the music store for some drumsticks. End up walking out with a guitar and a drumstick. Uh, but the guitar actually sat for months before I even picked it up because, like I said, I didn't really have an interest in it uh, because of my dad and all that. But I start plucking at it. I remember one day I just started plucking at it, and even though where to start, how to start playing, or anything like that, I just start plucking at it. So my boy Ruben Spearman was my first unofficial guitar teacher. Reason why I say unofficial because he's not a guitar player; he's a keyboard player. Crazy thing, I never really sat down with a guitarist to really actually teach me it. But he was my first unofficial uh, teacher. So he would literally translate from keys to guitar. I would literally try to mimic what he's playing on keys on guitar. So he was my first official unofficial teacher, I should say. And then I just listened to a lot of music. I ain't gonna say a lot of music, it was quartet music. And the crazy thing is, quartet wasn't the first thing that I got on. So I worked at this pawn shop and I was playing, but I wasn't playing that long. But and this guy walks in and he was hearing me play. And he left his number, not knowing who this guy was, but ended up being Jeffrey Thomas, which became a great friend of mine. Uh, and I don't know, we just connected. Like it was crazy because I started ending up playing at his church, and he would sit down with me just like Ruben did. He would sit down with me, give me stuff, uh, teach me stuff. And he was a keyboard player, wasn't a guitar player. Like I said, I never really sat down with an actual guitar player. So yeah, he would literally sit there and teach me stuff. And then it got to the point he was like, "Well, man, I got this recording. Like, come, he was the first guy to actually put me on recordings. My first live recording was the Be Lifted Up album, Dr. Leonard Scott, and I was I was so unprepared. I wasn't equipped to do that recording, but my boy Jay Thomas, he put me on, and but it was a humbling thing to me too, because I honestly I took it serious, but you know how you you think you got it, because you're around certain people, and at the time Jay was like the top musician in the city, so I'm thinking I'm cool because I'm hanging with with the top musicians in the city. And I remember being at session rehearsal one time, uh, and this guy, he was playing, and we in rehearsal, and I'm back there playing, and I'm probably tearing my drawers. And he looks back there so calm and, and cool and said, "Hey, if you don't have it by next rehearsal, don't come back. We still cool though." And I was just like, wow, So that's kind of like was the entry of me knowing and seeing how this music stuff really works. Like, man, you got to know your stuff if you want to be out here. But at the time, like I said, it wasn't a lot of guitar players around. So I'm thinking I'm getting it at this time. And he quickly reminded me, "Well, you got a long way to go." And with that statement, it woke me up.